Hey everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this video. So if you saw this video that I posted across all platforms last week, you probably know what we're gonna talk about today, and that is CrossFit. So specifically, CrossFit posted a pretty problematic image on Instagram, which basically summarized what they think fitness is in 100 words. And there's a lot to break down there. So in that first short video, I just talked about their claim that you should not be eating any sugar, but today we're gonna break it down piece by piece, and I'm going to explain why a lot of these things are truly problematic. Now, before we jump right into it, I want to be very clear. This is not a video on CrossFit as a whole. This is simply a video on that one post. I actually have never taken a CrossFit class. My husband used to go to a CrossFit studio for like 6 months or a year, and then he hurt himself. But if you do want that video, like me trying CrossFit, and I mean, I don't know what CrossFit coach is gonna meet with me because, but I feel like that would be a great video. I just don't know who would do that. But anyway, let me know if you want something more like that down in the comments. And otherwise, stay tuned, sit back, grab a cup of coffee, a little cup of tea, because we're spilling the tea. So we'll pop the post up right here. And again, this is what CrossFit says fitness is in 100 words. So the first thing they say, eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. Okay, let's work backwards here. All of the points I have about that big, bold statement, no sugar, were best made in that first video. Number one, sugar in moderation is not going to kill you. And I also said in that video that nowadays, you really find sugar in everything. And I did have a few people comment underneath that were like, it's actually way easier to avoid sugar than you think. You just have to make smart choices. And that's fine, but you also are assuming that everybody has the financial ability to avoid foods that are more processed, that are going to contain more sugar. If we just think about something like ketchup, right? The normal store-bought ketchup is going to have added sugar in it. And yes, you can spend more money and buy something like the Primal Kitchen ketchup, which does not have any added sugars. This is what I purchase. I buy it on Thrive Market because it's a little more affordable. I would love a sponsorship, but that's not always an option for people. I think that's something we have to realize is that a lot of us are privileged enough to make those smarter choices, and a lot of people aren't. Whether it's because of where they live and they live in a food desert, whether it's because of financial issues. Sometimes people don't have credit cards, so maybe they cannot actually use a service like Thrive Market. I mean, we're making assumptions that everybody has the same access to food that someone like me in New York City does, and it's just not true. So to just sit there and say that it's actually quite easy to avoid sugar is a pretty privileged statement. Now, the other point that I made in the video is that I don't see someone claiming that they never eat sugar as healthy. Because when we think about where, I just like shedded half of my hair off. Because if we think about these special occasions where we eat sugar, your child's first birthday party, your first trip to Paris where you have some kind of amazing pastry, like you're giving up those things. And if you want to tell me, oh, well, they mean that you can have sugar on those occasions, but not normally. That's moderation. So to give these black or white statements, these like absolutes, is not helpful to people. It leads people to restrict and then binge. It has been proven. I have lived it. This is not healthy. Okay, let's go back to the beginning of that sentence then. Eat meat and vegetables, great. Obviously though, that does not work well for like vegetarian and vegan and plant-based eaters. Personally, I eat meat. I think that there are a lot of benefits to eating meat, but I also understand that there are people who either do not like it or ethically don't want to eat it. So I've worked, actually, there was a point where like all of my nutrition clients were vegetarian, which was so bizarre. But there are ways to still have a very well-balanced diet if for whatever reason you are not eating meat. Nuts and seeds, love that. Some fruit. We're gonna put a little period right there for a second, a little pause, a semicolon, piece of punctuation. Because here's the thing, when you say some fruit, that automatically lets people know that you think fruit can be good, but only if you eat a little bit of it. Guys, fruit is not the thing causing obesity. It's not. I am telling you right now, there is no one out there who got to a point of being unhealthy and developing chronic diseases because they had too much fruit. That's not it. And it drives me bonkers when people say like, oh, I only want to put half a banana in my smoothie because a full one is gonna make me fat. It's a banana. And look, you can make the argument that anything in excess is not good for you. Like, should you be going full banana girl? Remember her? Is she still around? And like literally only eat bananas? No. But it's because you're gonna be missing out on so many other vitamins and minerals and nutrients that you need, not because bananas are gonna make you fat. So coming out and saying like you can have some fruit, I think is the dumbest statement. Okay, and then after some fruit, we have little starch. Also, like, what are these quantifiers? Like, is some more than little? Like, how much? So starch, I mean, that's carbs, I'm assuming is what they mean. Again, that's just too broad of a statement, and it leaves a lot up to interpretation, and I feel like they did that on purpose because they don't want to get too specific in case someone calls them out, and they could be like, oh, well, we meant this. But also, like, if we think about CrossFit, again, I'm not commenting on my thoughts on CrossFit, but CrossFit, number one, is a sport. It is athletic and they go hard. Like, it's different than just normal weight training because you're also trying to move explosively as quickly as possible under as much duress as possible. And starch, or we'll just say, I mean, again, like I have to read the caption. We're gonna read the caption after because I think that there is clarifying. We need more of this. I think that there is some clarifying information, so we'll go back, read the caption after we're done sorting through this actual post. But like, if we're talking about carbs, carbs are going to be your body's main and preferred source of energy. So if we're doing low carb, how are you gonna have enough energy to actually perform these lifts? I don't understand it. Let's keep going. Keep intake to levels that will support exercise but not body fat. Okay, so they're saying eat enough so that you can perform accordingly but not get fat. Okay. Sure, if you're restricting sugar, you're gonna be binging, so. Practice and train major lifts. Deadlift, absolutely. Clean, a little more advanced, but sure. Squat, 100%. Presses, yes. C&G, clean and jerk. Again, more advanced, but again, we're talking about CrossFit and that's like their staple, so that's fine. And snatch. Again, advanced, sure. This is also like one of the things, again, not trying to make a broad statement about CrossFit without never trying it, but from what I understand about CrossFit and the people that I've seen who get into it, who shouldn't be getting into it, a lot of those movements are too advanced. Like, I feel like I have known so many people in my family and friend group who like want to lose weight, and CrossFit looks intense and fun and they have a great community. Like, I'm not denying that, and I'm not saying that this is black and white, like CrossFit's good or bad. Just like I think a lot of these statements in here do say things are good or bad, and that's wrong. But if you have not mastered the basics of just like how to deadlift, and they're gonna put you into like a clean and jerk, I don't think that's necessarily like the intensity level that someone who just starts working out, who really just wants to like look and feel a little bit better, I don't think that's what they need. Remember that this is like an Olympic sport. Master the basics of gymnastics. Pull-ups, again, advanced, something I think though that everyone should work toward if they have enough overhead mobility. Dips, like tricep dips, I don't really like those, but that's fine. I should explain why. If this is what they're talking about, dips, I find that most people don't perform them very well, and I think it's just putting the anterior delt or the front of your shoulder just in kind of a compromised position to be taking on your body weight. Personal opinion, I don't do them. If you like to do them, that's fine. Rope climb, that gives me PTSD to gym class, but sure, absolutely. You should be able to pull your body up. Push-ups, 100%. Sit-ups, sure. Presses to handstand. I can't do a handstand. Pirouettes. Like a pirouette? Like a turn? Like a pirouette? What are we talking, like double, triple, quad? Flips? No. Splits? No. And holds. I don't know what holds are. It's obvious why I'm saying you don't need to learn how to do flips. Let me talk about splits, because I feel like we go through these phases of like when flexibility or hyper flexibility is really, really popular. The average person does not need to be able to do a split. You can, and if that's a goal of yours, that's awesome. But being able to do a split is not a quantifier of health, of fitness, of how well your body is doing. I am really continuing to learn a lot about like mobility and flexibility, which are two different things. They do work hand in hand, but you know, as a dancer or growing up a dancer, you're always taught like more flexibility, and that's because we need it for that sport or movement. But the average person, like, how much flexibility do you need, right? Do you need to be able to do a split? The answer is probably no. Again, if that's a goal of yours and you want to do it just as like something fun to learn, amazing. But I think that we kind of forget, like, there's a difference between the flexibility we need and the flexibility that we're told by society that we should have as a marker of good health. So for the average person, honestly, I think as long as you can touch your toes, that's enough hamstring flexibility. As long as you can have a decent squat, like, you've got good hip mobility and ankle mobility. So I think that focusing more on joint mobility, meaning full range of motion through your joints, strength and full range of motion through your joints, and being able to perform basic movement patterns like squats, deadlifts, overhead pressing without restriction and with strength is a more important factor than trying to do a split. The 114 agrees. Bike, run, swim, row, etc. Cool. Move your body in different ways. I love that. Do I think you have to do all of these things? No, but I think that there's nothing really wrong with that statement. Until the next one. Hard and fast. God, if that isn't CrossFit to its freaking core. So I actually find with 99% of my clients, they are used to moving too fast and working too hard. And here's the issue with that. If you are working quickly, which you absolutely should do, like, we shouldn't only train slow, but if you're only training quickly, you are not going to have great mind-muscle connection. And honestly, I see this all the time. I get people into my class or in a personal training session, they start squatting and it looks like they're trying to propel themselves off the ground. And I don't blame them, because this is just what the fitness industry has sold to us, that you need to move harder, faster, longer. And it's you know, training smart isn't sexy. So to make this statement that you need to train hard and fast, which is CrossFit, I actually believe the opposite. I think you need to move slow, and I think that you need to take your time ramping up the intensity. Because also what happens, people go so hard and they're excited about their fitness journey and they're motivated and they go to the gym 6 days a week. And what happens? They get burnt out, or they get injured, or they're too sore, or they're too tired, and they give up. So why go from 0 to 60 when you can go from like 0 to 10? And then you go from 10 to 20, and then 20 to 30. That is how you build something sustainable, not these fads that unfortunately CrossFit is promoting. 5 or 6 days per week, mix these elements in as many combinations and patterns as creativity will allow. Okay, if you're doing CrossFit 5 or 6 days a week, I think we know what I'm gonna say. See the last statement that I made. Now, if they also mean like, okay, you're doing CrossFit 3 times a week, and then on those other 2 or 3 days, you're running or biking or swimming or rowing or doing this, like, okay, I can get behind that. But this is CrossFit's post, and it's a business, and the more they have you in their business, the more money they make. So sounds like they want you there 5 or 6 days a week. Mix these elements in as many combinations and patterns as creativity will allow. Routine is the enemy. Okay, I think I know what they mean there. They're saying don't do the same thing over and over again because you're gonna plateau. Like, that's what it sounds like to me. How are you ever expected to get good at something if you don't repeat it? If you are just mixing and matching different exercises every single time you go to the gym, you are not going to progress. You might get some progression right off the bat, but actually that's how you're gonna plateau. I forget who it was. I think it was Ben Bruno. He kind of coined this phrase that now like everyone kind of takes and makes their own. Proper strength training is really just the same 10 to 15 exercises done over and over. And I don't know like what the number was in there, but that's the idea. You're gonna have the same exercises and you're just gonna change little things about them. Take a deadlift, right? You're gonna work on your bilateral deadlift and you're gonna do that for X number of weeks. And then you're gonna progress it by making it a kickstand deadlift. And then you're gonna do that for X number of weeks. And then you're gonna progress it by making it a single leg deadlift. And then maybe you make it an elevated deadlift. And then maybe you go back to the beginning and just work on your bilateral deadlift. It's all the same exercise. You're just changing a small element so that you can progress it and get stronger. But on the flip side, if you did 1 week a bilateral deadlift, and then the next week you did kickstand, and then the next week you did dumbbell RDL, and like, if you change it up like that, you're never gonna progress. Also, just this statement of like routine is the enemy, that could mean so many things. And honestly, routine is the best thing that you could do for yourself because motivation is not always going to be there. You need to take action before you get motivated so often. And you know how you take action? By building a routine where it's just something you do. Okay, coming to the end here. Keep workouts short and intense. Why? Guys, make your workouts as long as you need to get to your goals, the time that you have to invest in your workouts, what you enjoy. So just say it's short and intense. And also every workout shouldn't be intense because we know what CrossFit means when they say intense. 100%. Regularly learn and play new sports. Okay. Sure. I don't know. I have nothing to say. Okay, so now I'm gonna pull up the actual post. I'll put it right up here because I want to read through the description because a lot of times that will have like clarifying, not qualifying information. CrossFit recommends eating meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. We call this eating for wellness because it sends health and performance markers in the right direction. I'm gonna have to look this up. Do they have RDs on their staff? Because who is making that claim otherwise? I just need more information. Like, what are these markers that you're talking about? Give me a little more data here. A common source of confusion in our nutrition recommendation is the no sugar component. Why are you making nutrition recommendations? Do you have an RD on your staff? If you do, I'm sorry for getting mad. People often point out that there is sugar in fruit, tubers, or even vegetables. This is true, but when we say no sugar, we mean no added sugar, as in no table sugar, high fructose corn syrup, natural sweeteners, honey syrups, etc. I actually forgot to even mention like the hypocrisy of their first statement saying like you can have fruit but you can't have sugar because there is sugar in fruit. I assumed that they meant no added sugar. See my original statement? I still think that this is incredibly disordered. We also recommend avoiding sugar substitutes, including natural or synthetic sweeteners such as stevia extracts, aspartame, etc. Though research on zero-calorie sweeteners is as yet inconclusive, potential risks include increased cravings for sweet foods and gut issues. Oh my God, can we stop with the gut issues? Jesus Christ. It is true that some people react in their belly if they have too much of certain like artificial sweeteners. I know for me, it's erythritol. I gotta be careful there. But it's just like, it's fear mongering. And then to be like, well, if you have a Diet Coke, you're gonna crave a whole cake afterwards. Oh my God, it's so stupid. The occasional food guru will counter these claims with claims of their own, stating sweeteners are a perfectly safe alternative to sugar. A food guru? Like a dietitian? This is the nature of nutrition science. The field is riddled with inconclusive and ideological claims. Think about it as a knowledge hierarchy. We are not sure of the actual implications of using sweeteners. We do know processed carbs can lead to a host of health issues, and we know the safest way to eat carbs is in their whole natural state. This is why CrossFit recommends eating vegetables, fruit, and some starch while avoiding added sugar. I gotta look it up right now before I get angry. Hold on. Okay, here's what we found. I don't know, I can't really find anything definitive. I will say that if you dig really deep on their site, in like the FAQs that says what about nutrition, they recommend a certain certification called Healthy Steps Nutrition, which is from Ercole, who's an RD, and it seems like she talks at a lot of different seminars, but she's not necessarily on their staff. I also found a very interesting article about how Ron DeSantis, the devil, signed the Occupational Freedom and Opportunity Act, which allows CrossFit trainers to give their clients, Hi, how are you? I can do it. I'm strong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good one. I didn't realize I didn't turn the camera off. My groceries got delivered. Okay, going back to that. So Ron DeSantis signed an act which allows CrossFit trainers to give their clients nutritional advice without professional accreditation in the field. CrossFit affiliates have called this a significant victory, but accredited dietitians are expressing their disapproval. Obviously. Oh, is this the, oh yeah. This is when the CEO of CrossFit said that he didn't mourn George Floyd. Yeah, that's not okay. Moving on. I think I've polarized enough people in this video. You can unsubscribe if you don't find issue with that. Natural sugars in fruit, sweet potatoes, or Brussels sprouts are lower impact because there's a lot less sugar in these whole foods. The fiber in these foods also promotes satiety and slows the amount of sugar released into the bloodstream. When carbs are processed, such as in high fructose corn syrup or even fruit juices, the fiber is removed or pulverized, reducing its effect. Eating whole natural carbs will help you feel satiety quicker, and the fiber will prevent spikes in glucose. They're not wrong, but again, it's fear-mongering. If you tell somebody they can never have this, that's all they're gonna want. There is always an opportunity to explore different macro ratios when optimizing performance. When finding a baseline, we are less concerned with how much you eat and more concerned with what kind of food you're eating. Eating for wellness means focusing on less on quantity and more on quality. Again, I don't disagree with that, but to say that you can never have something is not okay. And then they actually only defended their nutritional claims. They didn't talk about anything else that was problematic in that post. So I stand by all my statements. All right, that was exhausting. I'm sweating and I have to go put my groceries in the fridge. If you want to see a full video on me trying CrossFit and getting the perspective of a coach, let me know. I've been thinking about doing a video like that for a year. I literally just don't know. Maybe if I can find like a former coach. If there is a former CrossFit coach watching this video, please let me know. But I also don't want it to be biased. But I literally don't know what CrossFit coach would agree to be in that video. We'll figure it out. Subscribe so you don't miss out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.